So good morning. I hope you all can hear me, right? So welcome to this web design and development session. So in today's session, we are going to discuss about forms in HTML, right? So, what we are going to discuss today, right? Or HTML forms. In the previous classes, right? In the previous classes, we have already covered some of the basic things like formatting in the sense how to use heading tag H1 to H6 tag, right? The paragraph tag and underline those things. Maybe I'm just revising. Underline and bold, italic, superscript, and the subscript, and also unordered list, ordered list, and then list. The BR tag for line break, right? So these are some of the HTML tags for the purpose of formatting, right? So we already covered this one, right? So in addition to that, we covered about adding images, right? How to add the images, right? So, in order to add images in HTML, we use the tag img, image tag, right? So we call it element also. So we use image tag. So, and here the source we put the file, right? File dot extension, right? For example, maybe one.jpg, right? So you know that image tag does not have an ending tag, right? So this is the very basic thing, and also that it has several attributes like width, height, and so on, right? So this is adding images. How to add image we already discussed. Here when you add image, we discussed one thing, right? Your HTML file is here. Your file, for example, index.html, and your image JPG, both these are in the same directory, right? Same directory. In this case, you can directly link this, right? Because both the HTML file and image file are in the same directory. So the other way, for example, is not the standard way, right? Because maintenance is very difficult. So we know that we keep image file in a separate folder. So here, for example, index.html, here there is a folder called images. Under the folder, we have a file 1.jpg. In that case, how do we link? We have to mention the path also. For example, here, the source will be something like this. Images slash 1.jpg. This is the way we link images, right? This is also we discussed in the previous classes, right? So I'm just revising, right? Because we had last class couple of weeks back, so I don't know whether you remember. So this is also, this will also be a good revision for you. If you don't understand anything so far what we have studied, feel free to stop me and ask any doubt, right? Are you hearing me? Am I audible? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right. Okay. These are all we previously covered, but unfortunately, for 1 or 2 weeks, we were unable to continue. So that's why I am revising this. Out of these, if you have any doubt, feel free to ask, right? So let me change the pen. So that we discussed, right? How to add image. And another important thing we already discussed is hyperlinks, right? Hyperlinks. In HTML, from one page to one page, we use hyperlink in order to link each pages. Because, for example, if a person visits aiinspired.com, it will have several pages, right? It will have several pages, page one, page two, and so on. But we don't type this address in order to come to the particular page. From this page itself, we just click and come. So that way we have to link each pages. Those linking we call hyperlinks, right? So we already discussed how do we link that. So let's see how to link use uh, hyperlink in HTML. So for that we use anchor tag. So we simply put A stands for anchor. Like any other tag, anchor tag also has properties, right? Anchor tag also has some attributes. The first one is href. Href stands for hyperlink reference. So we have to give which page we are going to link. For example, here if there are two pages, index.html and about us.html, then simply now assume we are in index.html page, right? So from here we want to link to about us page, so we can simply uh, give the file name with the extension about us.html, right? And here, so here we have to give the text that is visible to the user. So this will be the source page, right? This will be the source page. Here we have to give the text that is appear to the user, right? For example, we can give about us, and we have to close the hyperlink, right? Anchor tag. So in this case, the output will be something like this. Output is going to look like this, about us. So if someone clicks this page, it will lead to this about us page, right? This is hyperlink. So in hyperlink we can link couple of different pages. This is within files we are linking, right? So all the files are inside the same directory, so we can simply link this one. Sometime we have to link external sources. For example, if we want to link google.com, here if you want to link google.com, here what you have to do is you can't type just like Google, right? Just like google.com, you can't do that, because it will try to, the web browser will take it as an internal file, so it will try to go to the path like an internal file. In that case it will not work, right? So what we have to do is, if you want to link any external resources, you have to type with the HTTP or HTTPS, right? And this way you have to give, right? Then it will lead to the external file. Here, one important attribute we discussed, right? Here we discuss one important attribute, that is target attribute, because if you just link external resources, the moment user clicks on that external resource, the user will be away from our website. User will go out and he will be in google.com now, right? So as a best practice, so we want to keep our visitors to our website as much as possible. So in that case, if you are linking any external resources, of course, there are many cases we have to link external resources, right? So, for example, if we design educational websites, so in that case, we have to link with some other educational institutions and so on. So in that case, if you want to link it the correct way, you can link like this, right? Ahref, then external resources, and here, for example, google.com. Then you have to use the attribute target blank. Close it, then Google. So in this case, what will happen is it will open up this google.com, but it will open in a new tab. So let's say this is the page. So here is the Google. If you click this, instead of going from the same page, it will open up a new tab and it will go, right? So the thing is, our web page is also open at the user's browser. If you don't use target blank, then what will happen is user will go away from our website and he will be now in Google, right? So it's like we are sending our visitor away, right? So it's not a good practice. So if we use external resources, depending on the situation, we can use this target attribute, right? This is the way we have to link HTML hyperlinks, right? Is it clear? Is there any doubt in this? So now we will move to other part that we discussed, right? Then that's we already discussed about formatting, and then image, and then hyperlink. And now we will see how to create tables. You know, in before CSS, we had to use HTML alone, right? So before now we use CSS for appearance and designing, right? For styling our web pages. Earlier we had to rely on HTML. We had to rely on HTML tables. So in that case, or even in our web page, sometimes we have to use tables. For example, if you are going to show the list of students in a nicely formatted way, we have to use table, right? So let's see how to use table in HTML, right? So to use table in HTML, we have to use, first of all, we have to use table tag, right? Table tag, right? Then we have to use TR. TR stands for table row. If you want to create a row, you have to create TR, table row, right? And then if you want to have For example, let's say we want to create a table something like this. Client here, server here, client side HTML, server side PHP. This is what we are going to create, right? So you see here we have row 1, row 2, and also we have column 1 and column 2. So it's basically 2 by 2 table. So in that case we need 2 rows, right? So tr it will create 2 rows, and each row has 2 columns, right? So here unfortunately we don't mention tc, right? Here we put TD, stands for table data. Each column we refer by TD, it is stands for table data. So in the first row we have to type client and server. So using each table data TD tag, I am typing here client, right here TD server, and make sure you put the index. So this will this will create the row 1 with 2 columns, that is here. And here again we need 2 columns, so td html and the td php. So this will create the second row. So this is the basically table, right? And here, or if you want border, you can use the border attribute. So here you can give the border thickness. So if, for example, you can give 1. So the border will be in one unit of thickness, right? Here in this attribute, sorry, in this table tag, right? There are 2 attributes we were using, right? Column span, right? Another one is row span, right? So column, so the attribute name is col span, right? Col span. So it means column span. Row span means row span. You know, span means extending, right? From here, if it is becoming like this, we can tell spanning. So where we use this is sometime we may have to create a table like this. We have to create a table like this. So here, if you see here, row 1, row 2, but in row number 1 we have only 1 column, but here column 1 and column 2. So in this case, how we have to write the code is, let me take a new sheet. So if we want to create something like this, so here you can see row 1 and row 2, but here column 1, but in second row we have column 1 and column 2. So in that case, how do we have to create this table, right? So, and then anyway we have to create 2 rows. So first row, here if you see we have only 1 column, but it's spanning to the size of 2 columns. That's what we mean by span, right? So it is 1 column taking the place of 2 columns. So column spanning. So here you can use call span equal to, so this table data, this column takes how many columns is what we have to define here. So 2. So you can use C1. So TD. So what this will do is it will create one column and the column will be spanning to 2 columns. That's the idea here. So we will get something like this. Now we will get something like this because we have one row and we have one column, right? Now we will create second row and it has 2 columns. So we don't need to use any column span. So we can simply give C1 TD and here TD C2. So we will get this output, right? We'll get this output. Is it clear? Or any doubt, or you want me to actually implement this in HTML and show you? Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay, right. So the other way, can you tell how will be the coding if we want to create something like this? Row 1, row 2, okay, sorry, let's go to the next page. Now we want to create a table. It should come like this. So row 1, row 2, and here column 1, column 2. How can we create something like this? So first thing we have to think about row, right? First, inside the table, we have to create the row, right? So let's put the row, first row, right? So now here, first column we have no any issue, right? First column we have no any issue. This is actually second column, right? This is actually column 2. Is it spanning this way? Horizontally spanning means call span. Vertically spanning means row span, because horizontally columns are in horizontal way, rows are in vertical way, right? Now is it spanning horizontally or vertically? The C2 column spanning horizontally or vertically?
Vertically.
Vertically, it's spanning vertically, right? So if it is spanning vertically, it takes the place of another row. It takes the place of another row. If it is spanning horizontally, it will take the place of another column. So here in this case, it is taking the space of another row. So in that case, C1, we have no any issue. Column 1, we have no any issue. So here we can type TD column 1, right? Here there is no any spanning. Here it takes actual space, so no issues. So in the second column, it takes the row of second row, right? It takes the space of second row. So in that case, it is spanning vertically. So we have to use row span. It takes the space of 2 rows, right? Then you can put C2. Right. Now here in this second row, you just put TD C1. Why? Because you don't need to, you can't put another table data. You can't put. Why? This space is not available. It is already taken by the second column of first row, right? It is not available now. So you can stop with this. You can stop with this. Is it clear? So if the particular column spanning horizontally, you have to use column span or col span. If it is spanning vertically, then we have to use row span. Is it clear? We create 3 rows. Like this, how it will come. இது வந்து என்ன செய்யும்? ட்ரெண்ட் ஆகிறது. ட்ரெண்ட் அடிக்கிறது எப்படி வரும்? How it will be? 2 will become 3, right? C1, C2. So the first rows, column 2 is taking the space of rest of the 2 rows. So spanning up to 3 rows. So we have to give 3 here. So the second, in the second row also we have only one space, and we have to add another table row, right? Another table row. Inside here also it will take only one column. New sheet. So now here we want to create a table like this. I'm giving different numbers: C1, C2, C3, C4, right? Row 1, row 2, row 3. So this is actually column 1, here column 2. So I'm sorry, let's make this 1, 2 is reference, 3 and 4, right? So if you see here, we have to consider the first span, right? First span first. So here number 2 is spanning across 3 rows. Is it clear? Is it spanning vertically or horizontally?
Vertically.
Vertically, right. Up to how many rows? 1, 2, 3,
Three.
right? Up to
3.
3 rows it is spanning. Is it first column or second column? Second column, right?
Second column.
Second column. So let's put table. So here we have to create a first row. So in the first row, first column has no issue, so we can put table data 1, then 5. The second column, it is spanning up to 3 rows. So table data, here we have to use the attribute row span equal, what's the number? 3, because it is spanning up to 3 rows. Then you put number 2. If you create like this, right? If you create like this, what it will actually do is it will literally already would have occupied this space. It would have already occupied this space, which means row 2 and row 3 has the space of only one column, because already row 1's second column occupied the second column of row 2 and row 3. So now the second row and third row is going to come like this. 3 tr/tr and td number 4. Is it clear for everyone now?
Okay, sir.
Right, what about others? Okay, here I have a folder called HTML. So in this folder, I will show you the implementation of this one, right? So I use a notepad just to make you understand the coding, right? Just to remember the text. So, if you want to create HTML, we have to first put HTML, right? And integ HTML, right? And we have to create the skeleton, the frame of the HTML. So HTML, then we have to write the head tag and also the body tag, right? Head tag, we put metadata and other related information, for example title. So here I'm typing example of HTML table, so it will appear in our title of the web page, right? Title. So here in body we will put h1 example table, so it's going to appear in our content. Now we will create the table, right? So table. Now if you want to see the table visibly, we have to put the table border, right? Border. I have some issue with my equal key. At border 1, so we can see the table, otherwise it will not display the table. Right now we have to create 3 table and so on, right? So I have created the table. Now we have to create this table, right? So we have to create 3 rows. I'm putting row 1, another row, so here there are 3 rows, right? First row, if you see here, we have 2 columns. One column is first one, and then column number 2, that is spanning up to 3 rows. So first I'm putting td and I'm giving the value 1. In second data, I have to use row span, that is spanning up to 3 rows, and I'm putting number 2 here. And let's finish table data. And now let me save this file as save as table.html. File extension is HTML, and I'm saving. Let's save this. Here is, let me open this file, and now we see something like, because we have to fulfill, since we are spanning up to 3 rows, right? Spanning up to 3 rows, we have to complete that in order to see the complete output. So let's finish this. td number 3, and here again td number 4. Right, now hopefully we will see the expected output. Let me zoom this. Is it clear now?
Yes, sir.
Right, I hope everyone is clear, right? So this is what so far we have studied, right? So up to now, I was revising what we studied from our previous classes, right? So from now onwards, we can move to HTML4, right? HTML4. Forms in HTML. This is one of the most important area in HTML. HTML is basically nothing, a very simple text we use to create HTML document in order to create web pages, right? So this is the last thing in HTML so far up to what we are going to discuss. Then we will move to CSS and then JavaScript, and then we will move to server-side scripting language, and we will be using PHP for the purpose, right? So now, if you take a website, right? If you take a website, basically it will have some pages. For example, home page, about us page, and maybe service or product or something like that. And finally, there will be a page, contact us page. It will have contact details of the business or the website web website entity, right? And then in the contact us form, you would have come across a form, something like user can fill it and submit. User can fill it and submit, right? Submit. So when the user is submitting, we can do a couple of things. We can capture this data and send it as an email. We can send it as an email to the owner's email. Or otherwise, if we want, we can store those data in a database, or we can do any other things like. So here, this form is being created using HTML, right? That's what we are going to discuss today, right? So basically, the processing of this data will be handled by server side like PHP, server side scripting language like PHP, because HTML cannot process the data. It can receive the data. So, sorry, as a mean to get the user input from web pages, we are using HTML forms. Even if you take Facebook, your status update, you are posting and you are submitting, right? Somewhat similar thing happens. This is part of HTML form, right? Part of HTML form. Using some other CSS like that, it is giving a different appearance, but basically it's just a HTML form element. That's what today we are going to discuss, right? So now I will introduce in a simplified manner, right? First is input, first element, right? So sorry, before that, like we use table tag in order to use table in HTML. If we want to use form elements, if you want to get user input using any of the HTML elements, we have to start with the very basic tag, form tag. Whatever user input elements you are going to use in your HTML, those should come inside the form tag. Make sure those should come inside the form tag, right? Those should come inside the form tag. Form tag has a few attributes. If time permits, we will discuss that today. Otherwise, those things we will discuss in the next class, right? We'll discuss in the next class. So remember, whatever comes inside the should come inside the form tag, right? Inside this, I will introduce one by one, then we can move to practical part also, right? Practical part also. So first remember, this should, all these HTML form elements should come inside the form tag, right? So the first one, you can think some contact us forms where you have filled maybe for creating an email or whatever, sign up or anything else. For example, we will have something like this, first name, and we will have a something like a text box, right? We'll have a text box, first name, right? And then sometime maybe your gender, then you'd have option like this, male or female. This is we call radio button. We will discuss one by one in detail. I'm just giving a basic idea. Text. And sometime favorite foods. Maybe I don't know, submarine. What else? Biryani and etc. Right? So here, sometime the user can select more than one option. In that case, we use something like this is checkbox. This is checkbox, right? This is checkbox. Maybe another password. Sorry, it is auto shaping. Right. So here password field will be similar to text, but only thing is password will not appear. Instead, it will appear something dot 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 or something like this, right? This is password. And there will be a button. After filling the form, you can submit the button, right? So this is submit button. And another button is there, that is reset. So after filling the form, if you want to fill again, you don't need to clear one by one. So in that case, you can use reset, right? So here we discussed couple of forms. Number one, text, and here radio button 2, checkbox 3, password field 4, submit 5, reset 6. In addition, there are only commonly used only 2, right? There are commonly used 2. Other one is sometime here radio button, because radio button we use to choose only one option out of many options. To choose one option out of many options, right? As against checkbox, where in checkbox you can select any number of options, and also even you don't need to select any option also, right? But in radio button, when we use radio button, the user must be able to select only one option out of all the available options. So in that case, for example, in general situation, gender, a person can either be a male or a female, right? In that case, if he chooses male, then he will not choose female. He shouldn't choose female. So in that case, we use a radio button just to make sure user selects only one option out of many options. The select box There's another option taking input from user, that is select box. For example, choose country. Choose your country, for example. So maybe USA, Canada, Japan, or so on, right? In that case, for example, right? So in that case, the same thing actually we can implement using radio button. Why? This select box also, you can choose only one option out of many options, but the practical difference is, if the options are limited to 2 or 3, we can go for radio button. So let's say there are around 200 countries, right? There are around 200 countries. If we are going to use radio button instead of select box, what will happen? The entire form will have radio button, and user would have to search one by one to locate his country. So that's the reason, if the options are several, or the many options are there, and if the user wants to select one, we can simply use the select box, right? We can simply use a select box instead of radio button. This is 7, right? And the last one, after discussing this, I can actually implement and show you, right? This is the 7th one, select box. Select box. The last option, that is number 8, we can call sometime. For example, if it is a service providing website or something like that, sometime user will contact for some clarification or some support services. In that case, user would have to type several lines. Text box won't be enough to type his message. In that case, we will use a larger text box. It will appear like that, a larger one, so he can type several lines. And also, if you go beyond, it will automatically expand, right? This is we call text area, where you can type several, right? So basically there are 8 different components, right? Let me revise it back one by one. One is text. One is just a text. Second one is also same text, right? It's like a password, right? Third, like male, female, a radio button. Number 4, you may have white, yellow, pink. So this is, you can choose multiple options. This is checkbox. Number 5, you may have, you can submit the form for processing, so it is submit. Number 6, after typing this, sometimes you want to clear all the input values, so in that case you can use a button reset, so it will clear all the input values, so this is reset. Then if you want to use a large options, like choosing a person's country or place of residence, right? Maybe Australia or whatever, right? So this is select box. And if you want to give user to type a large text, you can use a text area, right? These are the basic 8 input fields we would be using in HTML. Of course, there are different versions of these are available now in HTML5. For example, if you want to get the number from the user, you can use number. So user will only be able to input number here. That's not needed now. So for the time being, you just remember these are the basic 8 input fields, right? So, and from 1 to 6, from 1 to 6, this one including this one, we simply use input element to create that, right? Input element to create that. So now I can show the demo, right? Can show the demo. Number one, now we'll create text box. Text, we'll create a text so user can type his name or any other details, right? So for that, inside the form tag, remember we had to use the form tag. Inside the form tag, so for example, if I want to, we have to type a label so that user will understand what he has to type. So I am just typing like this: first name, yeah, tag. Then we are putting, this is the tag, right? Input, input, input. Here there is a attribute called type, input type. So here you have to mention the type of this input. So here in our example, that is text, that is text. So if you simply finish this, you will have a output something like this. You will have output something like this. Now let me show this to you, right? So let's go to a new page. So at the beginning, it's very good to practice using a notepad so that you will remember these basic texts, right? After some time, you can use any visual editors. So for the teaching purpose, I am using notepad, right? Forms in HTML. So when we move to JavaScript and PHP, of course, we can move to any visual editors, right? So H1 contact us, for example, H1, right? So now, if you want to start form, you have to put form tag, right? Form. Inside the form only, we have to use input element. So now we are discussing this one, right? We want to create something like this. So to group elements, you can create a paragraph tag or you can place it inside a paragraph tag. For example, I am typing first name. So br tag just to appear the text in the next line, right? Text box in the next line, just to make the text box appear in the next line. I'm using a br tag. You know, br tag will create a line break. So whatever comes next after the br tag will be in the next line, right? So input type, sorry, I need equal. Equal is right. Input type text. input type text. Let me give form.html. So let's open this. Now we are getting output like this, right? Now we will be able to input something. So I can repeat this. Last name. So the same thing, right? Now we'll have something like this: first name, last name. Here, this input field has some other attributes also. For example, value, name. Name is like a variable name. For example, we have to catch this data. Here there are two text field, right? Here there are two text field. In that case, we have to capture the data from particular field. Then we have to uniquely identify from which field this input is coming. So in that case, we will have to use a attribute called name. So this is we will learn when we process the data using PHP, right? Nowadays, for the moment, you don't we are not going to discuss about that. So let's just create the visual appearance. So here, since we have used the type text, we are getting output something like this, right? It's clear. So you can type it. You can type here, right? The first one. The second one, right? Number two, we can tell password field. Password field. So it is same like text field, but only thing is what you type inside will not be visible. So the same thing, only change is input type. Instead of text here, we will be using password. So it will have a same appearance, but the input value will not be visible. Input value will not be visible, right? Password. Input type, we will have to use simply password. So the output will be like this. Now here, if you type anything, it will not visible. It will not visible. So we will continue from next class, right? So with this, I want to wind up now. So we are learning a lot of things in today's class. Sometime it may be difficult to digest everything. So with this, I will wind up the session, right? Feel free to ask any doubt if you have, right? Thank you very much. So let's summarize what we studied in today's session, right? So at the beginning, I revised what we studied in the previous class. So in the previous class, we were studying formatting in HTML, right? Then we learn about images, how to add the image in HTML, then how to do hyperlinks in HTML, and then we discuss about how to use tables. Right now we are discussing about HTML forms, right? In this form we discuss basically 8 elements, right? First one text, second one password field. Third one may be radio button. Fourth one, checkbox. Fifth one, submit. Sixth one, reset. Seventh one, text area. And finally, we talked about what's that? Anyone remember? Select box, right? These are the 8 basic HTML elements. So far, form elements. So far, we just showed this text and password, right? From on the next class, we will be covering this one, right? So feel free to ask any doubt if you have. Thank you for joining the session. Thank you very much.